I uncovered my wife's affair with her boss, and now she's suing me for half our $350, $0 house after I found out she transferred $200, $0 from our joint account to her sister's name. I never saw it coming. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me, especially not in the most shocking way possible. One day, I was just going through some of our bank statements online, routine stuff, nothing special, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. A transfer of $200, $0 from our joint account to her sister's name. I blinked at the screen thinking I must be imagining things, but no, the transfer was real. It was done last month. I couldn't believe it. That kind of money, gone just like that. Her name is Emily and we've been married for 8 years. We bought a house together, a nice one, worth about $350, $0. We weren't millionaires or anything, but we had enough to live comfortably, save a little, and plan for the future. Or so I thought. Emily always put on this perfect face, sweet, attentive, the kind of wife who'd bake me breakfast in the morning and tell me she loved me every night. But I started noticing little things that didn't add up. She was more secretive with her phone, hiding it when I walked into the room. She'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts, saying she was just tired or busy with work. And speaking of work, that's where the real shock came in. I'd noticed her spending more time with her boss, a guy named Mark. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and her excuses got more elaborate. "Oh, Mark and I went out for drinks after work," she'd say, flashing that dismissive smile. But I started catching her lying. She'd delete messages, hide receipts, and I even found a few texts on her phone that she'd tried to hide. Nothing explicit at first, just enough to make me suspicious. But then I saw a picture, a selfie she sent to Mark, taken in her office bathroom with a caption that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just work gossip or harmless flirting. I was stunned. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? Was I just blind? I felt this terrible mix of betrayal and anger boiling inside me. I'd always thought we had a solid marriage, that we were building a life together. And now it felt like everything was falling apart. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the evidence was stacking up. I kept asking myself, how could she lie to me for so long? What was I missing? The worst part was that she always dismissed my concerns, calling me paranoid or insecure. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected, and I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. After I found out about the transfer to her sister's name, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd uncovered. It felt like a punch to the gut, $200, zero gone from our joint account. And I had no idea where it went, who it benefited, or why she thought she could get away with it. I kept asking myself if I'd missed signs, if I'd been blind to her lies, or if I just didn't want to see the truth. But deep down, I knew the money was just the tip of the iceberg. The next morning, I decided I had to confront her. I didn't want to, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I called her at work, trying to sound calm but failing miserably. When she answered, her voice was bright and cheerful, too cheerful. I told her I needed to talk when she got home. She sounded annoyed but agreed, saying she was busy with a project and would be home late. That was fine. I had all day to prepare myself for what was coming. When she finally walked through the door that evening, I could see it in her eyes. She knew I was upset. I didn't waste time. I pulled out the bank statement on my phone and showed her the transfer. Her face flickered with surprise, then quickly twisted into a defensive mask. "That's none of your business," she snapped. "I transferred money to my sister because she's been in trouble. She's got a kid, she needed help. It's not a big deal." I couldn't believe her lies, but I pressed on. "A big deal? Emily, this is half our house. You didn't tell me and I found out from the bank. What's going on here?" Her eyes narrowed and she started to spin a story about how her sister was in some financial bind and she wanted to help her out quietly. But I wasn't buying it. I knew her too well. She's always been bitchy when she's caught, and her tone was dripping with disdain when she said, "You don't understand how complicated things are. You're always so controlling. I didn't think I owed you an explanation." That's when I saw the cracks in her facade. She was lying, trying to brush it off. But I wasn't just going to accept that. I told her I wanted the truth, about the money, about her relationship with Mark, about everything. Her eyes flickered with anger and she started yelling, calling me paranoid, insecure, jealous. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." She spat. "You're overreacting. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I'm not cheating on you, and I certainly didn't transfer that money to some guy's account." But her words felt hollow. I could see her trying to cover her tracks, trying to pretend she was innocent. I felt a surge of rage mixed with heartbreak. How could she lie to me like this? How could she betray everything we built? I started to realize that this wasn't just about money or some affair. This was about respect, trust, and the life I thought we had. I told her I needed time to think, to process everything. I told her I wasn't sure what the future held, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. She threw her hands up and stormed out, saying I was overreacting and that I was ruining what little marriage we had left. That night, I lay awake again, feeling betrayed, angry, and lost. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. My mind kept circling back to the money and her lies. I kept thinking about the affair with Mark, whether she was still seeing him, or if she'd been lying about that. 2. The pain was overwhelming, but beneath it all, I knew I had to do something. I had to figure out what her next move was because I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I was tired of being played, and I was already planning what my next step would be because I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The following days were a blur. I spent hours digging through bank statements, emails, and her phone. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went, what her real motives were, and how I could protect myself. I also started thinking about how to handle the financial mess she left behind, especially that transfer to her sister. I knew I couldn't just let that slide. She had no right to drain our joint account without telling me. And the fact that she'd lied so blatantly made me realize I needed legal advice. I reached out to a lawyer first thing, and after a long consultation, I learned that she had transferred the money fraudulently, without my consent, and that I had grounds to challenge it. The lawyer warned me that Emily might try to claim she was helping her sister, but the sheer amount $200 was suspicious. It also made me think about the house, which was still in both our names. If she was planning to transfer her share or claim some kind of legal right, I had to be prepared. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. Meanwhile, Emily kept acting like nothing was wrong. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume again, and brush off my questions with that bitchy smirk. "You're overreacting," she'd say. "You're just jealous because I'm working late." But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was lying about her work. I had seen her texting Mark more than I'd like to admit, even caught her on a few calls late at night. That's when I decided I needed to get proof, so I installed a discreet recording app on her phone. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but I needed to catch her in the act if I was going to do something about it. One afternoon, I checked the recordings. Sure enough, there were multiple calls between her and Mark, some of them late at night, talking about how busy she was and how she couldn't wait to see him. I felt sick. All those nights she'd come home with that fake innocent smile lying through her teeth. I couldn't believe how she'd been playing me all this time. The betrayal was worse than I thought. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the lies, the deception, the way she'd been sneaking around and pretending everything was fine. I decided I had enough. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with this. I called her out that evening, told her I had evidence of her affair and her lies. Her response was classic. She got defensive, accused me of spying on her, and started crying that I was ruining her life. "You're just jealous," she said, "because I still look good and I still have options." That comment made my blood boil. I realized she was a bitch, a manipulative one who thought she could get away with anything. But I was done being the fool. That night I made a decision. I was going to take legal action. I wanted that money back, and I wanted to protect myself from whatever she was planning next. I also knew I had to prepare. For the worst, like her trying to claim some kind of legal right to the house or even trying to sue me for half of everything. I wasn't going to let her play that game. I was going to fight for what was mine and cut her out of my life if I had to. I'd never felt this betrayed before, but I also knew I had to stay strong. I was done with her lies, her manipulations, her games. It was time to take control, no matter how ugly things got. I kept thinking about how I'd been a fool to trust her so blindly, but now I was waking up. I wasn't just angry, I was determined. I had to get my house, my money, and my dignity back, and I was going to do whatever it took. Over the next few days, I threw myself into figuring out my next move. I wasn't about to let Emily walk all over me, especially after what I'd uncovered. I met with my lawyer again, this time more prepared. We discussed the best way to challenge the transfer of funds and what steps I needed to take to protect my rights to the house. The lawyer explained that since the money was transferred fraudulently, I could file a claim to reverse it, but I'd have to act fast. Meanwhile, Emily kept pushing her lies, acting like everything was fine, but I could see the cracks in her facade widening. She was starting to panic, I think, because I wasn't backing down. One morning, I decided to confront her again. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, that I had proof, and I was done playing her game. She looked furious, her bitchy attitude turning into outright hostility. "You're crazy," she spat. "You think I'm cheating, you're just jealous like always." She tried to turn it around on me, saying I was insecure and paranoid, but I had enough. I pulled out my phone and showed her the recordings of her talking to Mark, the texts, everything. Her face went pale for a moment, then she started yelling that I was stalking her, that she deserved privacy. I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I told her I was filing for a legal separation and that I wanted her out of the house. Her reaction was priceless. She started crying, calling me a monster, saying I was ruining her life and that I was just trying to punish her. That's when I realized she's always been manipulative, the type who can turn everything around and make herself look like the victim. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I knew what she was doing, and I was ready to fight back. That same day, I went to the bank and put a freeze on the account, preventing her from transferring any more money or withdrawing large sums. Then I contacted the lawyer to start the legal process. I wanted her out of the house and wanted my money back. I also started gathering evidence of her affair, screenshots, recordings, everything I could find. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. I'd given her everything and she had repaid me with lies, betrayal, and theft. I knew I had to stay strong because this was about more than just money. It was about respect and dignity. Throughout it all, I kept thinking about how naive I'd been. I had trusted her blindly, believed in our marriage. But now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything for her own benefit. I felt hurt, betrayed, and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I had to take control and get out of this mess with my head held high. I was done being her fool. It was time to fight for what was mine, my house, my money, and my peace of mind. And I was just getting started. The legal process moved quickly once I had everything in motion. My lawyer filed the necessary paperwork to challenge the transfer of funds and to assert my rights to the house. I made it clear that I wanted her out of the house immediately. She couldn't stay, not after everything. Meanwhile, Emily's behavior only got more bitchy and desperate. She tried to manipulate the situation, claiming I was overreacting, that I was trying to ruin her life, and that I had no right to interfere. She even accused me of spying on her, which was true, but that was only because I had to find out the truth. I was done trusting her word. One day, she stormed into my office, tears streaming down her face, trying to guilt to backing off. "You're just jealous," she said, voice trembling. "You don't understand how hard I've been working, how much I've sacrificed for us. That money was for us, for our future, not some stupid family member in trouble." I looked at her, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It was so obvious she was lying, trying to spin everything to make herself look innocent. I told her she was a liar, that I had proof of her affair, her lies, and her theft. That was the moment she snapped. She yelled at me, calling me a controlling bastard, saying I was ruining her life because I couldn't handle the truth. She accused me of trying to accuse her of things she didn't do, all because I found out her secrets. But I didn't care what she thought anymore. I was past the point of convincing her to see reason. I knew I had to get her out of the house fast. I'd already started the eviction process, and the court date was set for the following week. I also made sure that my lawyer was prepared to argue that the transfer of funds was fraudulent, and that I was entitled to a share of the house. Meanwhile, I kept gathering evidence, more recordings, bank statements, even her texts to Mark. I wanted the court to see the full picture, her lies, her betrayal, her theft. I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I'd been living in a fog, trusting her blindly, and now I was finally waking up. The pain was still there, but it was mingled with determination. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. She had hurt me deeply, but I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine. As the court date approached, I reflected on everything I'd learned. Trust is fragile, I realized, and when it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've been through a lot: betrayal, financial ruin, heartbreak, and I survived. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm taking back control. I'm fighting for my house, my money, and my dignity. And no matter what happens next, I'll never let her lie to me again. The court hearing was a whirlwind. Emily showed up looking furious, trying to put on her best bitchy smile, but I could see the desperation in her eyes. She argued that she deserved half the house because we were married, that her contributions, financial and otherwise, should be recognized. She also tried to claim that the transfer of money to her sister was a loan, and that I had no right to challenge it. But I had all the evidence. My lawyer laid it out clearly. The transfer was fraudulent, that she had lied about her relationship with Mark, and that her actions were a betrayal of our marriage. In the end, the judge saw through her lies. The court ruled that the transfer of funds was invalid, that she had no claim to the money, and that I was entitled to my share of the house. The judge ordered her to vacate within 30 days, and I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. Seeing her storm out of the courtroom, yelling and calling me a monster, was oddly satisfying. I knew I'd won this battle, but I also knew the war was far from over emotionally. After she left, I started the process of fixing up the house, clearing out her belongings, and reclaiming my space. It was a long, painful road, but I finally felt a sense of closure. I also filed for divorce, which was messy but necessary. I'm still dealing with the fallout, legal battles, emotional scars, but I'm stronger now. I've learned that trust is fragile, and when it's broken, it takes a hell of a lot of work to rebuild. I also learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything for their own gain. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs earlier, but I was blinded by love and hope. Still, I don't regret fighting for myself. I learned to be more cautious, more aware of the people around me, and I'll never let someone betray me like that again. If anything, this experience has made me more resilient. I'm rebuilding my life from the ground up, wiser and more cautious than before. And honestly, I feel a strange sense of liberation, like I finally took control of my own story. To anyone out there going through something similar, just remember, trust is earned, not given. Watch the signs, protect your assets, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Because at the end of the day, nobody is coming to save you, only you can do that. And I can say with certainty that I'm finally ready to move on, knowing I fought for what was mine.